Hi, it's Easter treat time. As you know, I like to put covers over my chocolate. Of course, these items don't have to be just for chocolate. Now this, you'll have seen in the thumbnail, is what we're going to be making today. Now this is a little tiny weeny one, and it's actually got a Ferrero Rocher in there. But there are so many chocolate truffles of approximately that size, you could probably do it for anything. And the thing is, pop the chocolate out, and he still sits as a really cute little ornament or an Easter decoration or just a bit of fun, you know, for the kids to play with, something like that. But I thought he was quite cute. He's really simple to make. It's all double crochets. It is in UK terms, don't forget that. I will try and put a little I've decided to put a little conversion chart on my patterns now to hopefully make it easier for a couple of people, because obviously we know the US and the UK sort of, can't think of the word, the stitches are slightly different. The stitches are exactly the same, but the names are different, should we say. So I'm going to start just putting a little conversion just for the odd stitches that we're going to use on here. Now he's in double knit yarn, so just a scrap of double knit yarn that you might have. And this bit you don't have to do. I'll explain as we go through the tutorial. It's an eyelash yarn, so I'll describe what I've done, but it's not really necessary. I just thought he looked like he was sat in a nest, so I thought he'd be quite cute for that. So this is what we're going to go and do top down, and I will see you in a second. Well, here we go with little Chicky. Now, as I mentioned, we have a Ferrero Rocher chocolate in there, so we just pop it out. It's got a little bit crushed because it's the one that I've been using to practice things, so it always ends up a little bit tatty, that one. But as I mentioned before, the little chick does stand on its own. You don't need to worry too much. As soon as the chocolate's eaten, it's not a case of you can just sort of get rid of it. He could sit on the side for Easter, so it could be played with by the kids, all sorts of things. It's just a little bit of fun. So we're going to work round this chocolate. I did mention there are other chocolates approximately the same size, and I have some eyelash wool, which I mentioned, and I said I'd comment on the eyelash wool. If you've not used an eyelash yarn before, it's an absolute nightmare to crochet with. I can't even find the beginning of it, but basically we call it an eyelash here because you can see there's sort of sections. It looks like sort of like a false eyelash, doesn't it? This is one that I've had ages, so please don't ask me what it is because I've no idea. I think it might have been one I even picked up at a charity shop once, and I just thought the mottled colour was really, really pretty. It is hard to generally crochet with, but to do one round, easy peasy. Beyond that, you do have to sort of feel for the stitch rather than actually do it. So we'll put that to one side. These are the double knit yarns we have. Got a bit of fluff stuck to that one. So got like a baby chick yellow and the brighter orangey colour for the beak. Tiny weeny bit of stuffing because I have done his head separate, so you do need a bit of stuffing. I have some little beads for the eyes. Please remember, obviously, if this is for a younger person, or you think there's any risk of the beads being swallowed in any way, it might be better to embroider the details, maybe some big French knots or something like that in yarn for the eyes. Up to you, but please be careful and be aware of the age group you're working with. Got my scissors, got my tiny weenie. This is a unicorn stitch marker by my daughter. Isn't she just cute? That's called Ernest. He has a name. It's from her artwork. And I have my 3mm crochet hook. I think that's everything there. Oh, I do need my needles, which over here. So I need my sewing up needles. So I'll pop them to one side because we don't need them yet. We don't need the beads and the cotton either yet. Or the scissors. What do we need? Move that. We'll keep the chocolate there. We'll keep our little chick there just to keep us company. We'll move that one to one side. And we're going to get on with making the chick. We're going to start with his body. I'm just thinking this yarn's going to roll off, isn't it? That's actually my stitch marker tin now, so I'm just going to sort of put the wool there and hopefully it's going to roll off. I know it is, but I've got yarn balls, but I have a tendency to push everything into them, so they end up as storage bowls rather than yarn balls, so I can't put my yarn in it. So we're going to start with our slip knot. Again, don't forget UK terms. It is in an amigurumi style as well. So if you're not used to that sort of continual spiral, it feels a little bit odd. But persevere, because you get into it and you're going to love it. It's just about a little bit of practice. We don't need that either as well. So onto the hook we go. And we're going to start like I start all my amigurumi. It's with 2 chain. Now, I know for some of you, if you use the magic loop and that, the 2 chain sort of system's a little bit weird, but you will find it's neater if you can persevere again. Into that first chain, so here we've got our first chain. We're going to do 6 double crochets. So it goes in, we grab the yarn, pull through, 2 on the hook, we pull through. That's our first one. So it's in, pull through 2. That's 2, 3, 4, 5 and 6. So that is our 6 double crochets there, but we're not going to sort of stop start, so we're not going to join, we're going to continue, and we're going to go into that very first stitch, which is here. And again, make sure, can you see there's 2 parts to the stitch? You do need to make sure you picking that up, and we're going to do 2 double crochets into each of those 6, which will give us 6. So we go in. Again, I'm trying to do this a little bit slower because I know there's some of you out there that are real beginners to this. Obviously, some of you are going to go, why is she doing it slow? But then other people are going, why is she doing it fast? So just take your time and sort of feel comfortable with it. You should be enjoying it. So we grab our yarn, we pull it through that stitch. We have 2 on the hook and we pull it through. Go into the same stitch, pull it through, pull it through. So that's 2 in our first double crochet. And we're going to do that again in the next 5. So that's a 1. And that's 2 in our second one, and then we're into our third one. 1 and 2, so that's number 3 done. 1 and 2, that's number 4 done. 1, 2, that's number 5 done, and our last one for 2 double crochets into it. And there we go. We should now have 12 stitches. We're going to repeat that through. So now we're going to do 2 in each, which is going to give us 24 stitches. And you'll be glad to know that is it. There is no more increasing on this. So we find our first stitch. We do 2 stitches into it. So that's 1. 2 stitches. 2. 2 stitches. 3. 4. 5, 6, remember 2 in each, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and our last 2 in number 12. So we now have our 24 stitches. So I'm just going to pull this gently. Be careful because some yarn can snap, and you don't want that to snap because you've got to sew it in. So you don't want it to break. I know I've done that a few times and it's absolutely frustrating because obviously you've got a risk of it coming undone then. So I'm now going to get our little stitch marker and we're going to place it in. Where should we pop it? Ooh, if I can get hold of it, that is. In there. So I'm just lining it up so I don't have to count. If I'm counting, I would be counting 24 stitches. And if you've got a bit of quiet time, that is the best way to do it because you're going to get your sort of work neat and exact. But I'm just going to use the stitch marker because I'm sort of used to doing it. So I think that's the thing. It just comes down to pure practice. We're now going to do just 7 rounds. So you're going to go around 7 times, 1 double crochet in each. And that is it. So first stitch, first round. So 1 in every single one. Now some of you will be sort of rushing ahead here, which is fine. I'll see you at the other end. I know some of you will be staying with me and some will be definitely stop pausing, stop starting to sort of get an idea of what I'm up to. But just take your time. So almost round for round 1 already. You'll start to see it curving round, which is good. That's what it needs to be doing because it's got to curve around that chocolate. Almost back to our little unicorn. And there we go, little unicorn. Now I'm just thinking I could have done with a pen there, so I could have marked off. I always have a pen and I haven't because I've taken my basket downstairs to do the work. For some reason, I think somebody's eaten all my pens. I can't find any pens anywhere. But that is round 1. I'm going to have to count, make sure I count this properly because I want 7, don't I? So that was 1. We're on number 2 now. So this is round 2. 1 double crochet into every single one of those stitches. And can you see how it's curving round on my finger now? It does curve inside out though, so you do need to push it out, which I'll show you when we get around here. So this is round number 2. There we go. So that's round number 2. And as I say, you can see how it's curling. That in there is the outer, so we need to push it out so it's that way round. It makes like a tiny hat, really, doesn't it? Everything makes a hat with me. I'm terrible. I'm actually going to move my stitch marker up, which is something you do need to do maybe every 2 to 3 rounds. It is quite important because it's a spiral technique. The start position, if you're not counting the 24, sort of doesn't move. It doesn't move, but it sort of will sort of move to one side. That sounds silly, doesn't it? But I know. Just trust me on that one. Just trust me. Right, round 3. Now, if you are new to amigurumi style, I'd recommend you practice your double crochet stitch loads because it's really important in this style. And you get a nice, neat double crochet, everything else will come easier. Or sort of watch a amigurumi video, something like that. I actually thought I got one because somebody asked me the other day, but I can't find it anywhere, so I'm not quite sure. I thought I did one just like making little balls, because amigurumi essentially is lots of circles a lot of the time. That's why it works so well for the chocolate covers. Right, we are almost round. Now this is round 3. It is round 3, definitely round 3. So that's round 3. So should we have a little look? You can see how the chocolate's going to fit in. Oh, you can see it's sort of fitting in nicely there. So we're going to go for round 4 now. Let me pull a little bit more yarn out. It's doing well actually. It's not falling on the floor yet. So this is round 4. Round we go. It does grow quite quickly, this, because I know a lot of you do things like this for charity, so you need something sort of quick and simple, something you don't really have to think about, because I know some of you have told me how many you've made of some of the items for charity, and it's absolutely mind-blowing. You sort of work so hard, it's amazing. I mean, I've got attention span of a gnat, so I'd get very bored after 2 or 3. That'd probably be about it. But some of you are doing like 20, 30, 40 plus, and it's like, wow, such dedication. And for such a good cause as well, so it's really important. So that was round 4. Round 5, here we go. Now this is also the biggest part of our check, so as soon as you've done this, the rest sort of comes really quickly. I did say round 5, didn't I? I hope so. The thing is, you do need to keep measuring it on your chocolate anyway, because your stitches could be a little bit looser than mine. So at this point, if you're finding it's going to be too loose, perhaps decrease a couple of stitches. So you just do 2 double crochets together or miss a stitch. That is another technique for bringing them together. And then it sort of tightens up around our chocolate. So this is round 5, about done. I need to move that stitch marker for the last time because we've got 2 more rounds after this. Ta-da! So let's move our stitch marker. Yeah, that will do me. So I've got 2 more rounds in the yellow. Nearly caught it then. Well, I did catch it, not nearly caught it. It nearly got to the floor. Right, off we go. So this is round 6. And then we need to make a decision whether we're going to use the eyelash or not. I'm going to use the eyelash because I just want to show you sort of how it works, but you don't have to. As I say, it is a time where you can just leave it. So we'll have a look when we get there. So we're on 6, aren't we? 6, 6, 6. I have to keep reminding myself. I will make sure I have a pen next time, and I say that every time and I don't do it as well. I am sort of organised in a disorganised sort of way. Right, so this is round 6. We've got 1 more round to go. Off we go. Last round. And then I'll pull the eyelash yarn in to do a little bit of work. I say eyelash yarn is gorgeous. I mean, well, a long time ago when I used to knit before I taught myself to crochet, I used eyelash a lot for things like toys and teddy bears and all that sort of thing, and it's fabulous for knitting. Absolute nightmare for crochet because you just can't see the stitch basically because all the fluff gets in the way. But I say 1 round, 2 round marks is okay. I mean, you could do a full thing in it, but you either have to have a larger hook or you've got to sort of be very patient or be able to feel where the stitch is, which you can do, but it is it's a risk. You don't want to miss stitches and things like that. Right, so we're round. I'm going to take the stitch marker out. Oh, if I can, there we go. So we don't need the stitch marker at the moment. And I'm actually going to fasten off with a slip stitch. And I'm going to say I have done for the yellow part. So you could say that is it. Because look, there we go. Fits in nicely. Little bit of space. It's not. You want it to sort of always come slightly beyond, because then if you want it to sit, it will sit without rolling anywhere, because you don't want it rolling over. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to bring the eyelash yarn in. Let's find the end first. I did find it a minute ago, didn't I? Because I was showing you. Where's the end? Oh dear, I'm always doing this. Here we go. Here we go. Although I think it's got tangled up. You always have to be careful with these eyelash yarns as well, because obviously, because of all the tiny little pieces on it, it can get really tangled very, very easily. So I'm having to do a bit of detangling here. There we go. I've done it. I've done it. I just thought this was such a pretty colour. It just looks like a little bird or a little bird's nest, things like that. So I've got my yarn ready. I'm now going to pick up my little chickie, and I'm just going to come back a couple of stitches, maybe there. And I'm going to start with the eyelash yarn. I'm going to pull it through and do 1 double crochet. Can you see already? You can't see the stitches. Now I'm going to run this in with it, so I'm crocheting that into it. You can sew it in, you don't have to crochet it in. So I'm going to get into my next stitch and just double crochet. Can you see how you can't see? Double crochet into each one. Like I said, for this round you can feel it, but can you imagine what it's like going on to a second round? You'll have to let me know if you've had a go, or if you've been successful, or if you have a method to do it, which helps, because like I say, it can be very awkward to use, but it does make a lovely effect, so it is worth it. So again, we've just got 24 stitches all the way around to make it look like our little chick is sat in a nest. We're almost there. Great for doing the edges of sort of doll's clothes as well. You know, if you want to like have a fur looking edge, something like that, it does actually. Always double check, because sometimes the stitch is hiding below, so make sure you're getting every single stitch. If you're counting, you should have got 24, of course. Right, we're round, so I'm going to slip stitch into the first one and finish off, and that is it. Be careful when you're pulling it through, make sure you do get it all through, because again it can catch with the lashy bits. There we go. So we have our little chick base, which looks really cute, and he's in a little nest. You need to be now obviously sewing your ends in. I'm not going to, because I can do that after the fact, and you don't need to see me sewing ends in, I'm sure. So we're going to go back to our lemony colour now. It's actually a bit paler than lemon, isn't it? And we're going to do his head. Now, if the body was quick, the head's going to be even quicker. Starts exactly the same. So we're going to have our 2 chain and then 6 double crochets into that first one. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and 6. Obviously we need to increase from there, so we're now going to do 2 in each. So into each stitch 2 double crochets, so it gives us 12 stitches. So we've got 1, 2 in our first one, 1, 2 in our second, 1, 2 in number 3, 1, 2 in 4, in 5 and in 6. So we now have 12 stitches. I'm just tightening up that center point. Again, don't pull too hard. You don't want your yarn to snap. Some yarns will snap so easy and it's very frustrating. We now need 1 more increase, but we're not going to do 2 in each. We're going to do 2 in the first one, 1 in the second one, 2 in our third one, 1 in our fourth one. So we're alternating a 2, a 1, a 2 and a 1. And we do that 6 times to give us 18 stitches. So here we go for our first one. 2 in the first one, 1 in the second one. That's 1 set. 2 in this one and a 1. That's 2 sets. We have a 2. We have a 1. 3 sets. We have a 2. we have a 1, 4 sets, a 2 and a 1, that's our 5th set. One more set to go, we have a 2 and we have a 1, and now we should have 18 stitches there. You can see it's already curling a bit, so let's just push it out a little bit. Now you can pop a stitch marker in here now if you wanted to, but we've got 18 stitches, so I'm quite happy to count 18 because we've only got a couple of rounds to do, because as you can see obviously it's a lot sort of shorter than his body, so you can alter that if you wish. You can make a longer or shorter head. It's entirely up to you, but we're going to count 18 stitches to start with, and we'll have a look what we have. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 over halfway, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, come on, 16, 17 and 18. So you can see it's curling round, so we need to push it out. We're going to do another round of just 1 double crochet into each of those stitches. So 18 again, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 over halfway, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17 and 18. So I'm going to stop now because I want to sort of show you how it sits on the head, and this is where you're going to have to decide if you want more or less. Now that's how it sits like that. So I mean when it's sewn on it's a little bit different, so that is sort of what mine is, so I'm going to leave it at that. So I did 2 rounds. You can do more if you feel you need more or less, etc, etc. It just depends on how much you want his head to stick up really. So I'm going to finish him off there, but make sure you leave a long enough strand here to sew it onto his body. That does matter. So I always like to do my slip stitch, don't I, to finish off, just because I feel it's flatter. And I'm going to leave a nice long piece of yarn there to sew it on. And that's his head done. So he's halfway there now. Well, he's more than halfway there. We need some wings. I'm just going to make 1 for you. Obviously, you need 2 wings. Well, not obviously. You could have 1 wing if you want. And we're going to do it again exactly the same and even quicker than they did that. So here we go. Slip stitch onto the hook. Slip knot onto the hook, should I say. 2 chain. 6 double crochets into that first stitch. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and 6. I mean, a little tiny wing like that would look super cute, but I'm just double checking what I did. I did then do 2 in each, so I did give myself 12 stitches in total, so 2 double crochets into each of those 6. So that is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and 6. And I'm going to do a slip stitch to finish. Now again with this, leave enough yarn so we can sew it onto the body. You don't really need that much, but it's always better to have more than less. If you find it is too long and it gets in your way, you sort of have to sort of guess how much you need. Maybe you need to shorten it. So pull it through. I'm also going to tighten that one because I didn't tighten it, because we don't want it to look like there's a hole in the middle, do we? So like this one, look, it's just a little wing, you can see. And all I've actually done is stitched it on about 3 stitches. That's all I've actually done with that. So I'm going to leave that to one side. We don't need the yellow yarn anymore, but we do need to look at actually stitching the head on and doing the facial features. So I'm just going to pop that in there because I like to work with my chocolate inside. It sort of gives me a base on when I'm doing this. Now again, ideally you should actually get rid of all these bits, sew them in. It does make life easier. In fact, where is my needle? There we go. And move all these bits to one side. And I'm going to take the long end, obviously, to sew it onto the body. I usually put that, I count as this. I'm moving towards myself, my camera's a little bit over there today. I count this as the back, so I decide which the back is, and my back's going to be where I finish those as well. And I'm going to pop it on, decide-ish where the position wants to be. I mean, you could do him cheeky, you could have it head to one side or all sorts. I've done him central, so I'm happy there. And then I'm going to squash it like that, so it's holding it in place. And I can see the line I'm going to have to follow, so I already know where the line is before I even start. And we're just going to pick up one piece from the body, one piece from the head, or one piece from the body, all the way around. As you can see, I'm sort of doing it in one move rather than two moves there. Don't fill it in completely, because we do need to pop a little bit of stuffing in that head. Now, if you've not got any stuffing, because it's such a small area, you could actually just use yarn to do it. So sort of ball up some of the yarn and pop that inside. It's just as easy. But I do actually have toy stuffing it on hand, so I might as well use the toy stuffing. Right, every now and again stop, check he's not going lopsided or anything like that, because that is really easy to do. I've done that before now, and then I finish it and like I said, the head's on one side where I don't want it to be. It's like, oh, start again. So never fasten off until you're happy where the position's gonna be, and if you're happy with it, then you can fasten off and be happy. Right, let's have a look how much space. Oh, we can get away with a little bit more than that. You only need a small space to push your stuffing in. To be honest, the smaller the space when you do it, the sort of better it sits when you have to sew it in. Because when you've put stuffing in, it can be a bit of a pain, right? See, we've got a little hole there, little space. So this is just a proper toy grade stuffing. I would recommend you do buy proper toy stuffing if you can, because, I mean, it's not expensive anyway. But, you know, the safety aspect and things like that. So by stuffing it, you've just made his head a little bit bigger as well. It's amazing what a bit of sort of stuffing and stitching can do. It completely can change the sort of shape of something. So make sure all that stuffing's in and out of the way. And we're going to carry on stitching it to his body. Oh, hang on, I nearly didn't pick that up properly. Make sure you do get these stitches solidly, because if you only pick up part of it, it's going to end up looking a little bit messy. Last stitch, I think. Ta-da! Right, that's my last stitch. I'm now going to make a little knot. Try not to tangle your yarn when you're doing it, like I'm now doing. I need to make sure that that's all flat before I push that through, otherwise it sort of makes it messy. So nice and slow to make sure it's going to be nice and neat. Pull it tight without damaging your yarn, and I'm going to push it through the head once and twice. I'm sure you have your own way of doing this. I'm a little bit sort of compulsive, I'm afraid, when I do that. So I always go for 3. I don't know why. Sometimes I'm saying always, sometimes I don't if it's a demonstration, but I do if I'm doing it for myself. So we have our little chick and his little head. I want to talk about doing the beak. This is why I want to sort of stop at this point. I'm sure you know how to sew the wing on. I'm sure you know how to sew some beads on or stitch some detail on, but the beak is just how I've done it. So I've threaded it on. That's way too much yarn. I'm going to cut that off because otherwise it's hard to handle. I'm going to make a knot in one end. I'm going to take this off and I'm going to go in from here. So I'm going into the stuffing part and I'm going to decide where his beak's going to be, and I'm going to go for there, okay? Because I think the beak needs to be done before the eyes because it positions. Now you will see the knot has pulled through, but it's only pulled through into the stuffing, and the stuffing has a tendency then to hold it. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn it that way, and then I'm going to go just opposite and through, yeah, and I'm going to make that a knot. I'm going to do that again, same space, exactly the same point. Pull it through, keep it neat and flat, it makes a difference, and gently pull it through again, over, pull it through, make sure it's nice and flat and nothing's going to catch, and pull it through. So can you see what's happening by just sort of layering? You see it sideways, layering that knot, it's giving us like a little point. So I'm going to say that's it. So I'm going to push it through, and I'm going to push it back through the bottom of his head all the way through. So I turn him inside out, and it's all the way through. Okay, don't pull it too tight. You don't want to have pulled the beak in from the other side. And here I'm going to do my little knot to make sure he is secure. If you want to do a second knot, that's entirely up to you. Then I'm going to push it back through the head, so double securing it, and push it through again, and however many times you're used to doing it, and I'll do it again. Right, so I'm going to fasten, oh, camera nearly went then. Right, I'm going to fasten that off there and pop my needle to one side just for a second. So you can see he gets, if you give it a little stretch, you get this little dinky beak, because you don't want a big beak on him because he's a little cutie, isn't he? So we need a real tiny little beak. Now, as far as the eyes are concerned, these are the beads I used. You could use little tiny buttons. If you've got little tiny buttons, you can see roughly, can you see what the beads are like? So you sometimes get that. Can you see those two beads are stuck together? That does annoy me when it's like that. Try and find two that are the same size. I'm happy with those two, because even when you buy a pack of beads that say they're 2mm, 4mm, whatever, you will find there's a variation in the sizes sometimes. So let's find this, and I will sew his little eyes on. So I need a piece of thread. This is just normal sewing cotton. I'm going to fold it in half. I'm going to choose my needle for sewing, which it will be this one. I like quite sharp needles, so I do use them sometimes a bit smaller than normal. So I'm not pulling that all the way through. You see what I've done? So I've got the loop at one end and the other bit at the other end, obviously. I'm just going to go in, so you can see it's like a cross one stitch. Pull it through, but not all the way, and then through the loop. And that's anchored it without me making a knot, which is always good. We try and avoid knots. So I'm going to pop the bead on. Let's hope it goes over. Sometimes they won't go. Again, it depends on the hole size. So I'm going to go in where I've just started it, over to the other side. Ta-da! Look how cute that looks. Amazing when you put the eyes on, what a difference it makes. Thread it up. I'm going to go in. It's a different point. No, I'm not going in at the same point. Look, it's going to go in, and I'm going to go back over to the other eye. I'm going to go through the hole. It is quite a tight, small hole, this one, so it did take a bit of pulling that. And back through, back over to his other eye. And again, through. Now, I think that's enough, but like I say, please remember who you're sort of making this for. And again, like before, I'm going to push it all the way through the needle to the head area. Don't pull it too tight, but it needs to be tight enough that the eyes aren't wobbling about. And I'm going to make a little knot. Now with sewing cotton, I do like to make a couple of little knots because I don't trust it coming undone. Back through the head. Turn it all the way around. This is why you should get rid of these bits first, because I've sort of made it my life more difficult, haven't I? Sort of fighting through it. And back so you can't see it because it is a black cotton. You don't want to see it anywhere. So get it right on the dot. Through. And last time through. Done. Fasten off. And that is our little eyes done. And as I say, doesn't it make a world of difference? The second you put the eyes on, they just look so super cute. Now, obviously, it needs a wing on. It's the same process as the head, but I do it on the chocolate again. Get rid of and sew in the middle one, so it's not getting in your way. And then position where you'd like it. And basically, I need maybe 3 stitches just to hold it at the top. Can you see? I've not done anything. I mean, you can do it further around if you want, but I quite like the way the wings sort of flick out if you just do it at the top. It makes him look more like a little baby chick, doesn't it? So I'm going to continue with this one in my own time and finish him off. Let me know if you've made any. If you do any and you're on Instagram, etc, etc, just tag me. I just love to see it when people have made them. If you do make one and you pop it on Instagram or anything like that, very grateful if you will actually pop that it is an Octopudding pattern, because it means a lot to me and it helps me sort of with the business as well. So please, as I say, link me, tag me, whatever you sort of want to do with this. I do love to see people's work. Amazing how different he looks with the wings on. You put the wings on instantly, you get that better shape, don't you? So I'm going to leave it at that for today. I'm going to finish him off when we've finished the video. Thank you so much for watching. Hopefully you enjoyed that. Hopefully you're going to make some. I think they make some really cute Easter treats or Easter decorations. They don't have to have chocolate in, do they? So again, once again, thank you so much for watching. See you all very soon. Please like, subscribe and share, and I will be back with another tutorial very soon. Bye bye for now.